Welcome, welcome. If you're new to me, my name is Jen Kem, and I'm the CEO of the Master Brand Institute. And I'm joined with Sarah Paikai, who is the COO of Master Brand Institute. And we host these Ask Us Anything sessions to cover a lot of the burning questions that we get collectively in our from our clients, from our audience, from our social platforms, and we try to consolidate them in one place so that you can get insight and behind the scenes real talk from two people who are running an eight-figure company and are one of the top advisors in the online and offline space to help support them sustainably grow their business. So, with that said, again, if you're just jumping in, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, where you are jumping in from, as well as what you do for a living. What is your business? How does it help people, etc. Okay. With that said, we want to have you have the opportunity to extract as much value from this conversation as possible. So I'm going to jump in, and there are going to be more people that join us because we've had many people RSVP for this particular Ask Us Anything. But I'm going to go ahead and jump in and then cover what we're going to cover, and then we will be answering questions. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. I think it's working. Everybody, is it working? Ready to go? Perfect. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, why are you here? Well, you're here because you want to learn, again, those behind the scenes practices and what actually happens. And I want to warn you right now, get your headphones on because it's very possible that an F bomb will drop. I'm going to keep the talk real and honest. And I remember when I was in the corporate world, I was like, everybody swears in the boardroom. And then all of a sudden you go to this online space and people are being careful about that. And that's not who I am. So I just want you to know, just because you don't, I want you to know this is going to be like grown time. So if that will offend anybody around you, get those headphones in. Kind of like Robin Arzon, if you guys are into Peloton, she's my favorite instructor. And she's like, look, just to let you know, this is an explicit ride. And I'm not saying that this is going to be fully explicit, but they may drop here and there. So I always like to get people like, now you can get to know me. If you're brand new to me, you're like, oh, okay. She's already kind of put herself out there, but that's who I am. And it has not prevented me from being very successful in helping the people that we get the pleasure and the opportunity to help. So I just want you to know that you being here says that you get to show up as your full self, your real self, and you get to express yourself fully, because over here on this campus and around these parts, we help you get paid to be you, and all of you, not just part of you, not just the part of you that people can handle, not the part of you that people wish you could be, but the part of you that you want to be. And so I welcome you to be fully expressed here. All right. So today we have a theme because every time we do these Ask Us Anythings, we're a company that values structure, strategy, and systems, and soul, because we can't forget that that runs through everything. But we like to kind of center the topics around, again, a common theme that we feel we're hearing a lot from our clients, our audience, and our social platforms, so that you can take away a really useful and valuable bite moving away from it. So today, our theme is sharing with you the core framework that creates space and synergy in your business. How many of you want to have more space in your life? Everyone, I assume. Okay. How many of you want to have more synergy with your audience? You want to, if you have employees or contractors, you want to have more synergy and better communication with them, because that's where sustainable scale happens. None of us can sustainably scale alone. Okay. Can pretend like I have a big problem with the word self-made because I don't believe anybody is self-made. It takes other people to grow. And so, in order to grow, you have to find a way to learn how to do that with synergy and synchronicity. And so, we're going to teach you the framework that we employ inside of our own business that helps us be more synergistic and synchronistic all the way around. Okay. So, let's go over what we're going to be covering today. So, first of all, if you know me or you're getting to know me, the way that we teach, coach, advise on this campus is we are big context over content people. Obviously, we're going to give you the specific frameworks and the tools, but if you don't understand why they're important, if you don't understand how other things impact a structure we share with you, then it actually won't work, right? So you'll notice that I'll explain a lot what's behind the structure that came to be. And that's done on purpose because we respect the fact that you deserve to know why. A lot of us like to invest in things where and me too, by the way, where it's like the 5 steps to doing X, Y, and Z, right? Or how to make 6 figures in 6 weeks or 6 months, right? I'm not saying that those things aren't possible. What I'm saying is that buying into any of that without understanding the context of what it really takes to achieve specific goals is a waste of our time. Can we all agree with that? That context over content is valuable. If you agree, please put in the chat, I agree that context matters. And by the way, when I tell you how we do things, I want you to be thinking through how this knowledge that you're going to learn today is something that you can be doing. I'm already teaching, friends. That's the point here. Like we haven't even gotten into the structure piece and I'm already teaching that context is important for you if you want to attract clients, if you want your team to support you, they need to understand why, even if they think they don't need to understand why, right, Sarah? Like, we'll talk about when we first started, Sarah is so organized and structured. Thank God. Okay. Because I am visionary and strategic. And I want to tell y'all here, most of you who are here, and I say this with love and empathy, you are not organized. You desire structure and you desire control because we all do. Those are human desires, especially those of us that have a lot of vision and strategy. But we're really not organized people. And that's why it's both sides that are needed. In fact, it's 3 sides, which we're going to show you in a moment. All right. Next, we're going to show you that framework that is core to our business model that creates that space and synergy so that you, as the founder of your company, can employ your big ideas. And without this framework, I see a lot of people being what I call particles in the ether. Like it's spread out, it's all over the place, and it doesn't, when you think of light, a light beam is really a series of particles that are consolidated together to create clarity. And some of you, your particles are scattered, so you can't have that laser light beam that helps all the stakeholders that you want to communicate to. Again, whether it's your audience, your clients, your family, your team, your ability to laser focus your communication will change everything. And the framework we're going to share with you today is something we use to communicate within our company and frankly within our families, because I always say there's no such thing as separation of church and state or family and business in a business. In fact, I don't believe that there's no such thing as business problems. I think every business problem can be solved with a strategy. Most business problems are personal problems that are infecting your business. And when you're creating structures, even the structures alone can't fix everything. It's the context, it's the leadership, it's the ability for you to show up and have courageous conversations, but also confident conversations, right? So we're going to be doing that. Number 3, what we're going to be doing is answering your questions, because this is the Ask Us Anything. So Sarah and I will be fielding the questions that we've scraped beforehand, because you were asked to ask the questions beforehand so we can answer as many of them as possible. And I just want to say that on our campus, we have what we call a Coach One, Coach All philosophy, meaning even if it's not your question that we answer today, there's something in the question and the answers that we give that apply to you, right? And I want you to be thinking through and learning from that space of you, even if somebody else asked it. In fact, a lot of times people ask better questions than we can think of. Am I right? So you want to leverage those questions from the other people. And then finally, we're going to share what's now and what's next as we exit this call and move on to our lives. Okay. So, with that said, let's talk about our journey a little bit. So, again, some of you are brand new. In fact, if you're brand new to us or you've never come to one of our live streams or events, I'd love to know you. Please put it in the chat so that we can welcome you into our community properly. But just to give you a little bit of a background, so the Master Brand Institute was founded 8 years ago by me. And I ran another company called ChemCom. And this company was a consulting company for the Fortune 500. And my background is I spent 15 years in the corporate world and left my last job as a VP of marketing at Verizon, which is a Fortune 13 company, to create another company. Has nothing to do with this. It was a company where I sold underwear. It's a whole nother story. If you want to learn more, go to my YouTube channel. Okay. But for now, what you need to know is in my success of building ChemCom, I invested heavily in my personal and professional development. How many of you have invested heavily in your personal and professional development? Most of you. In fact, you're investing right now by being here, right? Even it's not just about money, it's about the time that you put in to invest. And so I always invested in professional and personal development. I had a coach, I had a therapist, I had specialty advisors that helped me along the way. And one of those advisors, almost a decade ago, said to me, you know, Jen, the things that you teach would be so useful to small business owners and entrepreneurs. And I said, no way. That was my answer. No way, not interested. Love what I do, love the simplicity of what I do. But you know how we are as founders and visionizers, we're crazy, right? So we always kind of want to tackle a new idea. And she said, look, I wish I had you as an advisor in my business, because the things that you're teaching me just by being your coach, I'm like, nobody else is teaching this from a marketing, branding, strategy, and team perspective. And I think that you should teach entrepreneurs. And because I'm big on knowing who your ideal audience is, I was like, again, no, I will not do it. So she said, would you do it for me? And I say, I'll do it secretly for you. Okay, I'll do it secretly for you. And if it doesn't work out, don't blame me, because I don't know how to teach entrepreneurs. That was the truth. I said, we're crazy. I'm crazy. I don't want to teach people like me. I just know my own focus and my own drive. Any of you resonate with that? You know your own focus and your own drive. Well, I did it. It was a test. And I absolutely fell in love with how much, frankly, I'm such a problem solver. I think we become founders of our ideas because we're problem solvers. We see something that's broken and we want to fix it, you know, or we see a gap that we have expertise or experience in, or a desire to try to fill that gap. Well, from there, I said, okay, and we've got such great results. We moved her company from a single-digit $1 million company to a multi-million-dollar company in less than a year, that I said, great, okay, fine. I'll start an educational company to help entrepreneurs, like she had encouraged me to do. And so I started small, just like I tell everybody else. You have to start in stage one, I call it, when you start, even if it's a new idea. Because even though I was very successful at my other company, I knew that this was a new idea that I had to start from scratch on. The good news is I was ahead because I had all this experience, but I still had to go, okay, I need to find 10 clients, right? I need to find 10 clients, and I'd like to make this new idea pay off within a year. I have a very, very small goal. And for you, I hope this doesn't offend any of you, but when my small goal was, I just want to make $100,000 this year in this particular business, because I also didn't want it to distract me from my core business. But I also knew making $100,000 or more in the business was not going to be hard, because I'd proven it out with this other client. So I started small. I was on my own. I knew what I needed most was to be able to share my frameworks with people. So I was looking for an intern to help me film my frameworks. So I put out on my personal Facebook page, I'm looking for an intern. It's a paid internship to film me, and you have to be in Hawaii, because I lived in Hawaii at the time. I live now in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I lived in Hawaii at the time. And this person who was in a class with me at a nonprofit that I taught at, that was one of my gives in my company. Every quarter I would teach at a nonprofit locally to help local small business owners. And these are people who are like baking baked goods and selling it from their car on the side of the street. These were people who wanted to start up house cleaning companies. These were people who want to start graphic design companies, which in this case, that was the husband of my now COO and partner in Possibility, Sarah Paikai. And she responded to that call and said, I want to help you. And I was like, you're overqualified for this role. And she said, I don't care. I want it. And I can figure stuff out. And you don't really know what I can do, basically is what she told me. And I was like, oh, I believe you, but I'm trying to bootstrap this business because that's what I do. I don't ever take all my money and throw it into a basket. I always test the idea out first. She said, I'm your Huckleberry, just pick me, pick me. So I said, all right, let's go. So we started meeting, you guys, at Panda Express. We would have our meetings at Panda Express. We would get a takeout lunch and we would eat there and we would talk about what is now the Master Brand Institute. This was 9 years ago about. And since then, with those very humble beginnings, Master Brand Institute has now become an 8-figure business. We have an incredible core team of committed, aligned human beings that we get to work with, and we get to serve all these people. That it's great. And along the way, we've been able to serve them in Europe and serve them in Santa Barbara and serve them in New York. And we've been able to travel the world, and like, it's been great. And also, we want to share with you what it really takes to do that in an ethical, high integrity, values driven way. So that's a little bit about our story, because I wanted to give you the context. And some of you that have already been in our community, parts of that story may have been new to you, or you needed to hear it again, to hear that everybody starts at zero, even Oprah, even, by the way, he's from our hometown, like Barack's from Hawaii, right? Whoever you admire in the world started at zero. And if you're here, you're a CEO that has built something and you want to sustainably scale it. You want to move it from 6 figures to 7 figures, or maybe you're trying to crack the code to get to the 6-figure mark because you've been hitting a ceiling based on whatever. So we're going to show you that framework today. So Sarah, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself right now and add any context to that story before we jump into the framework.
Yeah. So the context, I guess, a little bit more going forward after that moment where we started working together. I've done every single role in the Master Brand Institute, from the janitor all the way up. I've done customer service, and I've been in the Facebook groups. I've done all the fulfillment things, like just anything and everything that was needed in the company. I started and built from scratch with Jen, right? And so my context is sometimes, everyone says now, they look at the relationship that Jen and I have and they go, oh, I want a Sarah. I want like those pictures that you're seeing on your screen right now. And I want to reflect to you that this didn't happen overnight. It really did start from Jen finding someone who was willing to just put in the work to support where needed. And I grew with the company into that position. So your Sarah or your COO, your head of operations that you one day hope to aspire to find to help you with that organization and system, don't despise the day of small beginnings, not just of your company, but even with the people that you work through and work with along the way, because there's so much gold to be brought there, and all of it is a journey and a process. So just super grateful to be here. And so now what I do is I run our 8-figure business. I do all of the operations, all of the fulfillment, all of the strategic planning that happens. I mobilize the team, and I've worked with hundreds of consulting clients through the Master Brand Institute, working in 7- and 8-figure companies as well, helping them drive their team forward to hit revenue goals. So if you think about, like, just to think, it gets me a little emotional to think that it all started from that Facebook post to where it's evolved now. And I'm just so excited to be on these Ask Us Anythings and pay some of that knowledge forward, because we've learned a lot, Jen Kim, over the years.
We have, and like, let's not be humble here, okay? Sarah Paikai is the force. And again, it's why people are so, and I'm just going to say it, I'm okay with it. People are jealous that of our relationship. And I say that with such pride because when I say jealous, I think jealousy is a good emotion if used correctly. Like if you want to have a person, a role in your company that's growing, like that can have somebody that takes the lead, because Sarah is able to now take the lead. But when we were first showing up, she brought her skills to the party and she brought her attitude, right? Those two ingredients. And then by working together and understanding our flow and synchronicity, and even the things that frustrated me or frustrated her, and being able to have those conversations, it's created this incredible life for both of us, you know,
And for
and
our
the rest of our
clients.
team and for our clients. And
Mhm.
so she's also the lead coach on the team for the role. Like she helps the visionaries get more organized, acts as a fractional COO inside of their companies. And also, if you have somebody on your team who is an operations person, do any of you have an operations person on your team? If you do, Sarah mentors them and helps them create the cadence and the structures to support you, because that's what drives us bananas. Am I right? Like, can somebody help me? Can somebody understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Can somebody translate this into actual work? Can somebody help take some of this, give me more space so I have creative time, so I can have breathing time, so I can, you know, work smarter, not harder? How many of you have an ops person on your team? Please tell me in the chat. And if you don't, how many of you like, I need one? I need that role. So tell me either way in the chat, please. Because this is a dialogue, not a monologue. Okay. And don't be shy. There's no judgment, shame, or right answer here. It's all about let's see where you are so that we know how we can support you,
Mhm.
right? And how the community can support you. Great. Cool. All right. So thank you for sharing. All right. So let's jump in to that framework that I mentioned of how we make decisions and focus our efforts inside of our company. Okay. So when we're looking at our goals or to solve a problem, we're looking at three areas. And that is the what, the why, and the how. I know that sounds easy and simple, but it's in this order on purpose. Okay. So the first is we use the values driven framework, which you can see right here on the right side of the screen, as our filter for decision making from a business perspective. We actually also use it for our personal lives as well, but that's ask us anything. Okay. Specifically for the business, we look through the lens of the values driven framework. Now, let me explain it a little bit. So in 2008, I lost my first business with the Great Recession. I had a retail business, as I said, that sold underwear, and we were kicking butt, no pun intended. Okay, we had incredible success, but we were kicking butt, but I wasn't covering my butt. Let's put it that way, because operationally and financially, I didn't have a strong foundation. Now, most small business owners at the time actually didn't. You know, there was no PPP or bailout money for small business in 2008. Thank God, with the pandemic that we're in right now, there is relief. There wasn't back then. And my gift is strategy, vision. I could smell the money. I knew where like the opportunities were. I know how to create interest in my brand. Those were my gifts. And I also knew how to lead a team, because I came from the corporate world and how to assemble the Avengers, if you will, for your team, right? Like I'm like, you know, I'm Tony Stark, you know, people love me and hate me kind of thing. And it's kind of like, but I knew how to like rally them and make them want to like perform. And what I didn't have is I didn't have a Sarah, because I thought that I couldn't afford a Sarah. I had retail employees, I had a financial advisor, I had an accountant, but I didn't have a Sarah. And that I attribute to the biggest reason, besides the recession, that I failed in 2008. It was a big blow to my confidence because I lost everything. I lost my personal credit, my business credit, my marriage, a lot fell apart. And my point and why I'm telling you that story about the values driven framework is when I emerged from that loss and created ChemCom and now the Master Brand Institute, many people ask me, how did you come up from the ashes? And also, how are you still so confident in what you do? And so I took a study of myself and of successful people for the past couple of years. I've been in deep study around this, and I realized that it comes down to three things. It comes down to a leader operating their life and their business through their values. And there are three components or ingredients to your values. There's your vision, which is, your future self. And many of us have dreams and aspirations. But some of those dreams and aspirations are fantasy because human beings love fantasy. That's why we love to read storybooks. That's why we love Disney. Okay, that's why we love romance novels. That's why we like drama. That's the human existence. That's the truth of humans. So a true vision of successful people, and when I say successful, I'm not just talking about financially. Financial success is one ingredient and it's not the whole pie, because to me, ultimately, it's like, are you happy? Are you happy and joyful with your life? Are you spending your days working on things that you love and being around people you like? That's to me what success looks like. And so your vision, I want you to write this down, is your future self. It's you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And that future you is your boss. I want you to write that down. My future self is my boss. I report to her. I report to my future self. She's looking back at me and saying, did you make the moves? Did you make the scary moves to do that? Did you get honest with the things that you're not good at and took a risk to get support and help? Were you vulnerable enough to say, I'm not good at that, so I need guidance, support, and I'm going to then be a disciple of that decision? Do you know what it means when you become a disciple of your decisions? It means you have discipline. Okay. And so your vision is your future self. Now, there's two other components that a lot of people don't talk about, because everybody talks about values and vision, but it's all empty in my mind. I'm very opinionated, so just, But I think people talk about vision very not practically. They feed a lot of pipe dreams into us, and then it's like nothing's on the other side. And also, I think that it's easy to talk about values and you think you know what your values are, but most of us actually are not aware of our values, but we are living them. That's the truth. You are actually living your values right now. That is the absolute truth. The question is, are your values aligned with what your vision is? How you can find out is the two other parts of the framework, and that is your voids and your violations. So what are your voids? Your voids are what is currently missing or what you perceive as missing in your life right now. Okay? That's what your voids are. That also means it's your present self. Because the only reason you're here and the only reason that you invest your time, energy, or money into anything is because there's a void. And when you learn what your audience's voids are, you can help support them because you can communicate that. That's your present self. There is something missing or perceived as missing in your life right now. That is informing your values. So, for example, a void might be, I don't have a good marketing funnel in my business and I can't figure out how to get people to know who I am. Or a void might be, everybody tells me I should be on YouTube, but I don't have the space or the time for that. These are voids. When I say it might not even be real, it's a perceived void. And because you have a perceived void, you might be investing in something you actually don't need, because it's a relationship between the three things: vision, voids, and now violations. What is violations? Violations is an affront. It's something that has happened to you or something that happened to someone else that deeply has affected the way you make decisions. Typically, we call that trauma. Okay. Whether it's big T trauma or small t trauma, there is a violation. That is your past self. So vision is your future self, voids is your present self, violations is your past self. This one right here is the one that I recommend you get therapy for. I mean it, like, because no judgment. I get therapy for my violations, right? But here's the cool thing. Your voids and violations and vision are all the reasons that make you resilient, strong, and committed. So, but some of you are doing it without being aware of how their relationship to each other is affecting your decisions. Okay. So a violation of mine that has made me now the CEO of a 8-figure company is that when I was in the corporate world, the only reason I left, I didn't have a reason to leave. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be like CEO of Google at one point in the future. I was like, oh, I'm going to be the first female CEO of Google or Yahoo at the time. Now Yahoo's kind of dead, but but Marissa Meyer beat me to it. So I was like, oh, like, I can't get that job. So I'm going to like go for where I can be the first. And the only reason I left the corporate world is because I was passed up for a promotion that was promised to me when I worked my buns off, ignoring my daughters for a while just to get this promotion. While the person who actually got promoted played golf with my boss on the weekends. And so when promotion time came up, he got the job and I didn't. And I realized that that was a violating event that made me rethink, what are my true values? What will I not tolerate anymore? And from that moment on, I realized that my value, I thought that one of my top values was ambition and family at the time. That's what I thought. But I realized that what my values really were and how I was operating was I desired to be autonomous. I desired to have control over my future, because over there, although I had a lot of awards and accolades and even a parking spot with my name on it, that it did not encompass who I saw myself being. And that moment, although I was pissed the hell off when it happened to me, it created energy inside of me. And so my point is, this model, which I'm writing a book on right now, which I'm so excited about, is what successful people do. Is they harness these three facets of their life, and they get self-motivated and self-inspired and align those decisions with their actions. This will change your life if you live the values-driven way. It will change the way you CEO. It will change the way that you can attract the best mobilizer on your team, which I'm going to get into next, because the how do you implement this in your business and create space and synergy? We call that the VSM model. So hopefully you're following. I know I'm going a little quick. I'm trying to be thorough, but I'm going to do a check-in right now. How is just learning about the values-driven framework, what's an aha moment that you're getting from this conversation? Tell me in the chat. Hi, Sanaya. Nice to know. I know you're tuning in from Europe, I think. You're in there right now. I'm jealous of you. I want to be over there with you. Okay, so Jessica's thinking about future self, looking at my actions and my values. Emily, my voids are holding me back and I can't be afraid of them. You know what? I hope that I put some, not just the practicality, but the humanity in all three of these facets of you, right? Your voids, there's nothing wrong with your vision. There's nothing wrong with the void. So there's nothing wrong with the violations. Now, people may have wronged you. That part I get. Absolutely. But it doesn't prevent you. In fact, they're strengths of yours. Instead of running away from them, actually to embrace them and the awareness of them that will create a better team and a better message for you. Okay? Great. So now I'm reevaluating my violations. Danielle, journaling about values this morning. Cool. Talk about synergy. Lynette, defining what I already do or have done on some level. Now creating a new adventure from scratch. Great. And by the way, all I'm doing with this framework is putting it into a model that I can explain. Because as I mentioned, this is my observation and study of the world's most successful people. And by the way, you don't have to agree with people's values to not say that they're not values driven. You just don't have to hang out with them, right? For example, 45, right? That dude is hella values driven. Okay. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay. You might not be from America, but I don't like to say, it's just like Harry Potter. I don't want to say his name out loud. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't talk about Voldemort, okay? But the point is that whether you agree with his politics or his behavior, he is values driven. And that's why he was able to ascend to the top spot, the top leader of the perceived world. Does that make sense? So whatever you believe, it doesn't matter. But it also doesn't matter. You don't have to be like that. Or if you don't align, if you do align with that, great. That's you. But you can see how it can help you stay like, you can become Teflon without becoming non-empathetic, right? Because for me and our campus, we want empathetic people. We want leaders who are high integrity. We want people who don't resort to lies for us. And so those are the clients we attract, right? But there are places for everybody to hang out. And that's the part that you need to get, because you're trying to like attract so many people. But if you're clear on your values, the right people will come and you're gonna be like, oh, I like these people we get to work with. I like these team members that I get to work with because they understand your true values. Okay. Yes. Yes. Good, Katie, that you saw that you have energy through my voids and violations. And of course, Lynette, you're welcome to share it as long as you credit us on terms of like how that we've explained it. Okay. So, because this specific thing I'm writing a book on, and it is what I see as like the missing link in the values determination that a lot of companies do. Okay. So now the how. How do you do it? How do you attract and build up your team to implement the values driven framework and be that company, right? So we have 3 roles that are in a company. When I say roles, they're not people, except for the Visionizer. The Visionizer technically is a person, okay? Because there's only one founder. Even if there's co-founders, they're all kind of in this green bucket. There's the Visionizer, the Mobilizer, and the Strategizer, okay? And in the beginning, if you're not having a 6-figure company, if you don't have a 6-figure company yet, you are the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the janitor, and the CEO, right? And so you actually probably will wear 3 hats. You're going to be the Visionizer, the Mobilizer, and the Strategizer, right? But your job as Visionizer is to get the hell out of the role as fast as possible. And the way to do that is align it with your values and understand that you have to make investments in time, energy, and money to do that. But some of you are holding on and gripping so tightly to all 3 roles and then pretending you want to be a Visionizer full time. And the evidence shows that you have to release the grip. You have to let go and you have to say, and when I say that, that doesn't mean, I also get honestly straight up pissed off when people are like, delegate everything. No, because you can't just delegate without context. You can't delegate without patience. You can't delegate with actually making space to have conversations and to write things down with your mobilizer and strategizer. That's bullshit. Anybody who's like, delegate, do delegate, da da da. I'm like, okay, sure. How many of you have been disappointed when you've delegated something to a virtual assistant? I have, and it's my fault because I didn't have the patience to say, here's exactly what we need and what not. Okay, so remember, your goal is to get out of Mobilizer and Strategizer as quickly as you can. And you can do it with part-time contractors at first, right? If your desire is not to have a complicated business, amen, hallelujah. How many of you don't want to have a complicated or complex business? Most of us don't, okay? So this also this pipe dream of like, let's have 50 employees. Yo, I've had 50 employees. That shit ain't fun. Woo, that is not fun. Because guess what? Humans, we're kind of, we're interesting bunch, right? Like we're not like army ants or bees. We don't try to do things that are natural. Okay? Like humans, to deal with personalities is a lot of work. So I'm big on like, let's fill the roles and the categories of the business. The business needs vision, it needs mobilization, and it needs strategy. That's what the business needs. And so even your employees go into these buckets. Okay, but you typically, if you are hitting 7 figures or multiple 6 figures, especially like once you hit about 250,000, you can afford to have the 2 other roles, even if you're scared, because it's the only way you're going to sustainably scale past that point. You need, and who do I think you need first? You need a mobilizer first. Okay, now you're probably like, can you define these roles? Yes, I will do that right now. So Visionizer is you. Cast the vision, communicates and gets excited about the future state of who you are in the business, and is the idea machine, which is also a bad thing, right? But we're the idea machines, like, oh, this idea, that idea, right? Squirrel, all the things. You are a multi-hyphenate. I want you to write that down. You are a multi-hyphenate human being. You want to have hyphen this. I'm a multi-business owner, multi-maker, multi-creative, multi-product-based business, multi-services-based business. You're a multi-hyphenate, okay? The strategizer is actually the person who's in charge of acquisition for your company. So basically marketing and sales for the most part. That's kind of their main role. They are architecting how we're going to get the vision fulfilled on the front end. So they're the front end. And then the mobilizer is the person who's on the back end. They're making sure that the buckets don't have holes. They're making sure that cross-functionally, because usually the Visionizer a little cray-cray, strategizers half cray, okay? Mobilizers are actually quite calm. Your best mobilizers are calm, focused, disciplined, love to check off boxes, love to cross T's and dot I's. They absolutely actually hate strategy. They love structure. They're just like, explain to me what you need so I can do it for you, okay? But they are the glue. They're the way that you actually scale. Okay, if you want to be in the corporate world, we used to say there's a difference between $1 million brand and $1 billion brand. And $1 million brand focuses only on sales and marketing. $1 billion brand focuses on operations and finance. Okay, now in the small business world, let's call it the 6-figure versus the 7-figure. That's kind of like the same idea, right? So in the beginning, again, you're going to wear all 3 hats, but you want to quickly get a mobilizer, and you want to quickly use our structures, and because we have this all mapped out behind the scenes. For 8 years, we've been building all of these structures and how to communicate and what kind of cadence you need to have a good conversation with a contractor. And trust me, I know that Visionizers are hard. I've worked with many of them. Sanaya's here. Hi, Sanaya's like an operations guru too here. And she knows we've all worked with people that are like, I mean, you're cray beyond cray, like not us, but like there's people who are beyond cray. And it's because they don't have, frankly, us advising them on, you know what? No, you're actually wrong there. Like if you're a Visionizer, and you need to calm down if you don't want your team to quit, right? And then sometimes you do hire people, frankly, that are not qualified because you haven't done the job of vetting them. But in these internet streets right now, anybody can say they're a VA, anybody can say they're an expert, anybody can say, oh, you should pay me $100 an hour to do customer service. No, Blue, that's not how it works. Because even in the corporate world, do you know anybody in the corporate world who pays $100 for that? Nobody does. And so, how can a small business owner afford that? But at the same time, I know because you're a high ethical, high integrity person, you want to pay fairly. You want to incentivize people to do a good job. You're a good person. So, what is that mix, right? It's hard to know. That's the part. We can answer those questions too when you like ask them. But my point is that these three roles, remember, they're not people, they're roles. Because even the Visionizer role, guess what, guys? When you die, and yes, we all gonna go somewhere, the meat sack that holds this soul is going to disintegrate. That's life, right? How many of you want to make sure that your business lives on beyond you? I do, even if I sell the business or whatever. So somebody else is going to be the Visionizer in that pocket in the future. So it isn't always going to be you, if that's the case. So how can you mentor up another Visionizer? Like Steve Jobs, when he died, Tim Cook was his COO, he's now the CEO. And Tim Cook's a cool guy. I like him, but I will say that why did Steve Jobs get an ops guy to run an innovative company? Because he was scared. Because if you know the story of Steve Jobs, he got fired from his own company as the Visionizer. And then he had to come back and save it. Right? So he wanted to make sure when he found out he was going to die, he wanted somebody stable and calm because he had brought the company past the tipping point of scale. But I will say, I think Apple is in danger of being called dinosauric. It happened to BlackBerry. It could happen to Apple because I like my BlackBerry and I'm still going to stand by. I think it is exceedingly better than any smartphone out there still, but it didn't survive. Why? Because the brand did not have a Visionizer that was keeping them ahead of the conversation. And Tim Cook, frankly, isn't doing that for Apple either. That's why Samsung has a beat on them. So these are the things you're thinking, okay, these are big companies. What does this have to do with me? It absolutely has everything to do with you. Remember, guess what? Steve Jobs, when he started Apple, he started out in a garage with his nerdy friend, Steve Wozniak, who was his mobilizer. Okay. And what's juicy is once you hit multiple six figures, what's going to happen is the Visionizer is naturally a strategizer to some degree, but they suck at the marketing usually because they're better at like knowing what the customer wants, but they don't know how to implement it. And then what happens also is that the mobilizer becomes more strategic. They start to learn and adapt and understand, oh, this is where the puck is going. That's, in hockey, it's like you don't hit the puck straight to the net or whatever it is, the goal. Okay, the goal. Like Wayne Gretzky said, you put it where they can catch it and score. Same thing here. So over time, your strategizer becomes more strategic. Your mobilizer becomes more strategic, and this is a good thing. But keywords are over time. If you keep firing everybody, and by the way, I'm good at firing people who are not skilled. But if somebody is skilled and you're not giving them the patience that they deserve to then evolve into the role, because most of us can't afford, six-figure salaries out of the gate. You know what I'm saying? Because that's, if you want to get like a top person, that's how much they're going to cost. And Sarah didn't start out making six figures. She started out making like $15. I don't even know if it was that much.
It wasn't that much. It was minimum wage in Hawaii. So
right. And she was willing to do it because it was called an internship. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so this is the model, the roles that you need. And again, it depends on the stage of business you're in based on revenue, how you decide to fill these roles. But even when you're hiring contractors part-time, if after this call, you're like, I'm going to go hire a contractor because I need a mobilizer right away. I want you to think about this triangle and that they're sitting in that, okay, like that's kind of purple color, right? Purple color on the left, that they're sitting in that role. And that doesn't mean necessarily they'll be your COO one day. They may fill a role for this season. And then then you go and you're like attracting another person that could manage that person so that you're not managing that person. And that person could be your operations manager. And then maybe that operations manager, you see a lot of potential in them, and you get them to work with us to train them how to support you better, right? These are all things. I mean, Sarah has both self-studied like all her the roles that she's been in. She's invested herself in getting like making sure she's the best mobilizer possible. And how many of you have read the book Rocket Fuel? If you've read the book Rocket Fuel, which is kind of like the book right now on how to manage your corporate team in a small business, I think the book is great. And I tell people about it all the time. But I think they're missing something. And that is that the strategizer and the mobilizer are two different roles. They really are. And in his book, the theory is that all you need is what they call an integrator. You've probably heard that a lot. Like there's the visionary and the integrator, right? And I don't think it's just an integrator. I think there's a mobilization person, somebody who's great at systems and structure, and somebody who's strategic, understands acquisition, understands traffic, understands marketing, understands sales systems, right? That is the difference. So that's why I'm writing my book too, because I think I want to offer a new, more evolved way to look at it that will save a lot of people some headache when they're hiring. Okay? Because when you do that, you create synergy, you create space. So, what are the outcomes of that besides us being an 8-figure company? I have a 4-day weekend every week. Now, today is Friday. So, on certain times, I don't, because we have to do things like this, which I love. I love showing up and teaching like this. But typically, I don't work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. And when I say I don't work, though, that is my space to be a visionizer. I write, I think, I do nothing. I get massages, I do my doctor's appointments. Okay. If my son has a half day, I can go and have ice cream with him, on those days, right? I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and still run an 8-figure company. Okay. Now, this thing also, remember, context over content. I don't want to be like, oh, I want to have a 4-day weekend like Jen Kemp. Of course you do. That's your future self, though, boo, because most of you here, that'll be difficult unless you get a mobilizer and a strategizer to support you, right? So I only was able to do this at the beginning of 2020. We started to test it out right before the pandemic hit. I was like, I need space because I'm writing this book. I actually don't want to be a CEO much longer. I kind of spoke that into the world at the beginning of 2020. I said, I really want to be an author and a speaker because in this next season of my life, I want to give my information to as many people as I can get my hands into. I want to change the way people are measured in their performance at work using the values driven framework. And I think I can do the most help in the corporate world to get back in there and help them do that, because it's partly why people are disenchanted with work, but we need people to run companies too, by the way. We don't need everybody to be entrepreneurs. Oh my God, this whole world would be a hot mess if it was only us, so there's a balance here, right? So we started it on, and Sarah said to me, oh yeah, we can absolutely do that. We just need to mobilize it a different way. And when a visionizer can speak to what they want, the key is to find employees and staff and contractors who understand that without getting upset. The visionizer's job is to have as much space as possible, because when they have space, beautiful things happen. And I'm speaking to you assuming that you're not lazy, because I don't see those 2 days, like my Friday and Mondays, as lazy days. I see those days as creative space days that I can choose to absolutely nourish and cultivate new ideas in a way that feels good and supports the company. But it takes time to get there. Okay. So with that said, that is the VSM model. So now we're going to go into Q&A. But before we do, I want to check in and ask you, what was one of your biggest takeaways from understanding the VSM model? And I think we're providing this replay to people, right, Sarah?
Yes, we
So
are.
if you're listening on the replay, feel free. You can even shoot us an email and say, hey, this is the thing that I got, or you can DM me on LinkedIn or Instagram and tell me. We'd love to hear from you. What was one of the takeaways, to see what supports you so we can build better trainings for the future for you. Jessica just won. Anything, just whatever uh, helped you understand it. And remember, the rules are different than the people. It doesn't mean, what I want to be very clear, we're not telling you, hey, you've got to hire 2 people right away. What I'm saying is, like, maybe you need a little marketing help. So you need to get a marketing person to help you build a funnel or write better copy for you. That's a marketing person. That's the strategizer role. And in the mobilization role, maybe you're like, I just need somebody to help me organize. I don't know where anything is. Like, I don't know where my passwords are. I don't know how to access the curriculum that I have built, it's all over the place, right? I need email management. I need a system to help me focus on what's important this week. That's a key one. If you can get somebody, AKA Sarah Paikai, to help you, what is the most important thing that you can do this week that will move the needle forward? How many of you wish somebody would just tell you that? Like, instead of you trying to figure it out, like, what is the most important thing I got to do this week? Because on this campus, what we say is, like, there's this Glennon Doyle, the author, she talks about we can do hard things. And I agree. We're all living proof that we can do hard things. Duh, like, we're here right now. We've survived plenty of things by being here. We've survived childbirth, meaning, like, we came through do you know how traumatic that is? We're all here. Point is that, yes, we can do all hard things. But the question I have for you is, are you doing the right hard things that will move the needle in your business? You're probably doing a lot of hard things that you should not be doing. Okay. Okay, great. Good. I'm glad. And I think that that's the thing, is, like, we try to, one of the biggest mistakes, I'm already answering questions, I think, as I go, but one of the biggest mistakes is thinking that, like, a VA also, like, can be all the things. Like, you could have a VA that's just a marketing VA and a VA that's an operations VA or calendar management VA, and knowing, even if they're VAs in the beginning, where they go, so that you're not trying to tell the strategy VA, hey, clean up my email list. And they're, like, secretly pissed off at you, but they don't want to say anything because they don't want to get fired. If you keep them focused on their specific goal, which is to create leads for you and generate sales, that's their number one role, then you won't have them wearing all these different hats, running around like monkeys with their heads cut off. Does that make sense? Okay, great. So let's jump into some questions, because I know we're, like, at time, but I really felt it was important that everybody understood this deeply.
Super good context. Okay, so a question. Someone asked, how do you find and hire folks for these roles? And when they would love your thoughts on how to distinguish who is truly hungry during that hiring process and who's just faking enthusiasm during their interviews. So, like, how do you hire genuine people who are actually really can do what they say and not just during the interview process are putting on fancy airs and saying all the right things that they think you want to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, and all of you have heard, hire slow, fire fast, right? I have a updated way to think of that is, yes, hire slow. That part I agree with. And we'll tell you a little bit. I'll actually have Sarah tell you what our hiring process is. But the fire fast, remember, fire fast only if they display a bad attitude or they don't have the skills truly to support you in what they said. And you'll find that out really quick. Okay, then fire fast. But if they have the skills and they have the attitude, they might be worth investing in a little bit more, especially in the early days of your business. AKA Sarah's a great example of that. I mean, I knew she was a good person. She's super smart, skilled, but she didn't have the experience of running this kind of company. That wasn't on her resume. And that's why she thrived, because of those pieces. And I think that answers the question of a little bit about, like, how do you know they're not just fronting, right? If they're just fronting that they've got good skills and a good attitude. So maybe, Sarah, I think you're the best teacher on this because you do this for our company and our clients.
Yeah, one of a very easy hack that you can use is during the interview itself, when they say, oh, I know how to do this and this and that, is to ask them questions to go deeper to show you examples. So if they say, oh, I'm great at project management, cool. Tell me about a time that you've used that in the past. What were some of the issues that you ran into when you were project managing, and how did you overcome them? Maybe they say they're great at customer service. Cool. Tell me about what's your process for customer service? How do you know how to reply to the emails? And where do you get your copy from? And tell me, like, what do you feel is a good turnaround time for a good brand experience? Questions of that go deeper, that let them explain to you in practicality how they've used these things that they're so excited to tell you about. And that's just a really simple micro, but like a very easy tool that you can use, because it'll help you kind of really distinguish when you say customer service and they say customer service, are you guys really talking about the same thing? And when you hear about their principles of how they handle it, how do you feel about that? So that in the interview process, that's one of the ways that you can really make sure that people are legit and not just faking it.
I think the
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, just we call that scenario based interviewing. So you don't ask questions that are yes or no questions. You ask about, tell me about a time. That's the perfect prompt for the definition you have of the role. So tell me about a time that you did that. Also, ask questions when it comes to conflict. Tell me about a time that you had a conversation with your boss and you thought it's what they wanted, but what happened after that was there was a breakdown in communication. How did you handle that scenario? Those types of questions are better questions to ask, not just like, tell me about your skills in this, tell me about yourself, tell me about your resume, tell me about this job you have on your resume. No, they wouldn't have even gotten to the call with you if they didn't pass muster with the resume, right? I mean, the resume is the resume. Instead, look at, hey, I see that you worked at this company and you were in charge of this. Based on what you know about our company and the role that you're applying for, what's a project that you feel like that you had in that company that would support this company? When you start to ask stuff like that, you'll really start to see, can they answer with truth? It doesn't mean they're going to be perfect in their answer, or they're not going to stumble a little bit, because people aren't used to being asked those type of scenario based questions. But just use your intuition too. Don't just hire somebody because you're desperate for help. That's the worst thing you can do. Okay. And I think the other question is like, where do we find people?
Yeah.
Yo, man, it's hard. Let's just put it that way. It's hard, but we use Indeed, just like Indeed.com. We use hiremymom.com. That's a great place to find hungry, committed moms who want part-time work, typically part-time, not full-time work. And then obviously Upwork.com. And Upwork has a lot of good candidates. I was on there last night looking for somebody for PR, and there were some really good candidates. I can't wait to actually talk to them. So those are your three main places. And Craigslist, but be careful with Craigslist because people scare you over there.
Okay, so one more question. So this is from Jessica. She says, Jessica Dawson, she says, I'm a relatively new service provider with a small list and I'm not yet earning sustainable income. I want to establish a marketing strategy that does not have us reliant just on social media. So I'm thinking starting a blog, developing a quiz as an access point to grow my list. How can I best boost this strategy to generate leads and grow my business within a short space of time?
Okay, so that last part about short space of time, be careful to be attached to whatever that means. So I can't answer that question about short space of time because I don't know what short space of time means for you. But what I heard mostly is that you don't want to do your marketing on social media. That's what I basically heard. And I think that's good to know, that it isn't in your value stack to do it with social media. So my answer to you, and I don't know if this is possible because I also don't know where you live, but I always say this, that there are literally millions of dollars in your backyard. And what I mean by that is in your local community, literally your zip code or surrounding zip codes, or at least the next close metropolitan area if you live in country or the boonies, which I used to live in the country boonies. So, and let me just tell you, offline and belly to belly marketing, I call it belly to belly marketing, are not dead. In fact, they're more effective than online marketing. So if any of you hate technology or despise social media, which I totally get because I despise social media, to be honest with you. The only reason I'm on it is to be able to share and meet new people like you guys. But otherwise, if I could, I would, and I could because I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. So there's a lot of opportunity here, right? So I think that's the thing, is that a lot of you are not looking locally. And if you had 3 to 5 consistent clients locally, that would be enough money and then some for you and a part-time mobilizer, right? And again, because I don't have the context of where you live, I don't know, but I'm hoping this helps all of you. There's literally millions of dollars in what I call your backyard that you are not extracting. Number two, another way is like, even if you don't like social media, because when you ask, like, should I do a quiz? Well, with a quiz, you still need to tell people about it. So it needs a platform by which to be shared. So I don't care if you use a quiz. I don't care if you use a checklist. I care that the thing that you use is appropriate for the platform that you're going to choose. And a platform also includes local community. That's a platform. But I will say this, I think it doesn't have to be social media. It could be a forum. Like, there are literally thousands of forums in your niche online. The best forum that has all of the forums is Reddit, right? If you go to Reddit, reddit.com, there is a forum there with people who are your audience. And you can create your own forum so that you don't have to be on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever to have conversations. And many of you think you have to do this on the Instagrams and the Facebooks. No, choose the platform where you feel your audience is and that you can enjoy the dialogue. And it does not have to be a social media platform. Reddit considers themselves a social media platform, but not in the way that we think of social media. So you can be online and not hate the world. That's my point. So I hope that those 2 ideas helped you. Okay. Awesome. So again, we love that you've submitted your questions. How many of you were supported by hearing 2 other questions from people, that it opened up or answered some of the questions you didn't know you had? Tell me in the chat. So Emily, yeah, for sure. Even for travel, because people who live near you want to travel too, and they're wondering what's possible, because especially with the pandemic and all that, you can be that local source. When I had my retail stores in Hawaii, obviously I only sold locally. You know what I mean? And the local media started calling me the understylist. I didn't even try to pitch them, but they were looking for they're always looking for people locally to interview and whatever. That's already traffic for you. Media is traffic. And getting local media is easier than getting social media paid. So some of you are doing things hard. Remember, the right hard things. That's critical for your business. So let's go into what's next, and then we got to wrap up because I got to go do some YouTube videos. Okay. All right. So I want to talk to you about what's now and what's next, and what we have for you if you're interested in working with our company to implement and be guided and advised with the values-driven and VSM model. Okay, so I'm just going to take a few minutes and tell you what it's all about. Is that okay? Is everybody okay with that? Okay. So what we do at the Master Brand Institute is help you sustainably scale your team, your revenue, and your values-driven impact. And we want to help you over the next 12 months make 2022 the year that you finally do the right hard things, that you finally do the things that will produce true ROI in a very specific, structured way. This is not all talk. I'm good at the context, but Sarah is the structures tools person. All the job descriptions, all of the tools, the templates, the spreadsheets, the focus on how to get so that your brain doesn't feel like it's going to explode. We've had clients who are like, oh my gosh, your spreadsheets, they're making my head explode. And I'm like, you're not focusing on the fact that Sarah's going to help you do it. Like, instead of thinking, I got to figure out how to be a Sarah or find a Sarah, what if Sarah was inside of your business and helped you get organized on the right things? Everybody wants that, right? So we have a program called CEO Circle. And if this program isn't right for you, I want to welcome you to still have a conversation with us, because there's another program, if you're not at the CEO circle level yet, that can support you in being better at the strategy side. Okay. So what we do in CEO circle, it's a group program where Sarah and I help you do quarterly strategic planning for your company. You get a one-on-one with your coach, and we like to call ourselves consultants and advisors. We don't think of ourselves as coaches, not that there's anything wrong with being a coach, but we're not trying to make you think about what to do. If you want to be somebody who's like, tell me what to do, and that you trust, because we're a values-driven company, that we're not doing it based on our ideologies. We're basing it on our structure, and you put your ideologies inside of the structure. Okay. This is a good program for you. You'll be in a group with other CEOs that are specifically in the same kind of realm of revenue as you, so that you can have fruitful dialogue and not feel like you're out of place during the program. The next piece is you get weekly live consulting. You know, in the past, it was like monthly, and we're like, you need touch points every week with us. And you'll focus on the cadence of what's working, what's not working, what do you have to focus on the next week. It's a very quick but structured way to kick ass every week. You get unlimited access to Sarah Paikai in Slack. So obviously there's office hours, meaning she'll respond to you within whatever is appropriate, but you get unlimited access, which is, no one's doing that in this realm. And you get all of our structures. So every tool, system, process, swipe file, mind map, everything. And not just you get it and go, okay, that can go live in your Dropbox cemetery, we call it. Sarah will outline for you what are the tools that you need in this season to implement so you can focus on the right hard things. We believe that a successful business is based on focusing on the right impact and income generating activities, and getting a team, even if it's a part-time team, and Sarah guiding you how to have a conversation with that team so that you can start to sustainably scale fast. And that I think answers the question of when she said, was it Emily, I think, or who was the person who asked the question where she asked, how do I do it fast? This is the fastest.
Jessica. Yeah.
Jessica. It's not fast, it's faster. Because you becoming a great manager of tasks and team is an ongoing process. Okay. So we've broken it down to its most important parts, and I'm giving you, you're welcome, my COO as your guide, because she is the game changer in our business. And you can even bring your team to conversations so that they can hear the translation, even if it's a part-time contractor, hear how to actually focus on the right things. And to
that was
me,
one of the biggest takeaways that the team has been saying, is so good to have somebody translating. And in fact, I just want to brag on our clients a little bit. We, in the past 4 weeks since 2022 kicked off this current cohort in CEO Circle, so 2 of the companies brought their ops person on, or their mobilizer on full time, which really freed them up to go after big deals. And 2 of the teams are actually on the verge of closing multiple 6-figure deals because they were able to focus where they needed. And we were in the office hours able to go, is that the right thing? That's not. Okay, the team is going to take this part, you're going to take this part. And they come back week after week, is I've closed another contract, I've been approached by a person, a mentor of mine, to actually integrate and be able to sell my products through their company too. Like different opportunities that are opening up because they have the space now to get that synergy and that creative vibe to make bigger plays for the brand. So it's been really exciting. And that weekly accountability to just say, what are the non-negotiables that we have to focus on to grow the company? Are we making progress towards that? What do we have to trade off? Those conversations, Jen, have been like bananas, amazing, crazy. And I'm really proud of them.
well, our clients as a whole in the past 3 years, actually since the start of the pandemic, have done $80 million in new money by working with us. And you might be thinking, okay, I'm not ready for this program because you think you have to get your act together. I want to invite you to have a conversation and trust us as your advisors to tell you whether or not it is for you, or there might be another thing, including not one of our programs. We're really high integrity. If we feel like you need even somebody else's program, we'll say to you, go do this. Even with our friends, for example, like I have a lot of friends in this industry where I'm like, you be a better teacher for this person. So I want to invite you to still schedule a call and know that we don't do icky, sleazy, slimy, or gross, as our client Kedrick Shope says. You can feel safe on the call and not worry that, okay, they're going to try to rope me into it or gaslight me into buying something. We actually don't want to work with people who are not a good fit, not because you're not good, but because it's not the right time. But I want to invite you to be brave and have the conversation and be open. Is that fair? Great. So you can schedule a call at confidently.me/VIP. Do it now before you lose your courage. Okay. Go to confidently.me/VIP. And with that said, this is the conclusion of this month's Ask Us Anything. I just want to say thank you to Sarah, because she has been so incredible at, this was even her idea. She's like, I think we should do this and help people understand the behind the scenes. And I think she's right. And I'm so grateful that you all took your time to be here. A moment or the highest value you got out of this Ask Us Anything.
While they're doing that, I just want to say I'm loving doing these. I want to do more. Let's keep doing them, Jen.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun. I think you guys are like writing paragraphs. You just have to write a sentence. It's okay. Great. All right. Take care, everyone. We'll see you and talk to you soon, and have an incredible weekend. Bye.